Well, you know, I get asked a lot of times about crankbait fishing. Which line do you prefer for crankbait fishing, monofilament or fluorocarbon? And the truth is I use both. But a lot of times early in the year, especially if I'm cranking shallow, I tend to like monofilament a little more. I like a little more stretch. And the reason being is, you know, these Shad Raps have a real narrow bill on them and a real tight wiggle, and they'll kind of get hung in crevices and rocks and they'll kind of dive into corners. And the thing I like about it is whenever I get this crankbait wedged in a rock, and a lot of times, you know, you're fishing these big chunk rock, boulder type rocks in the spring, I can actually pull back and pop my line, and that mono, you've got a little more spring that'll actually help that crankbait back up out of it. And that's kind of the reason I like monofilament. Now, at times I will use fluorocarbon, at times, but early on in the year, I tend to prefer the monofilament, especially when I know I'm going to be fishing around a lot of hangy stuff, rocks, trees, stumps, that thing. I just feel like I can get them back a little easier with the monofilament. There's one right there as we speak. He's not very big, but I've caught one on my Shad Rap. Got a little one. But I caught that fish right there. That was 10-pound Suffix titanium line. And like I said, it's a good smooth line. It's got a low stretch for a monofilament. This line doesn't have just a whole lot of stretch. It's got some, but it's got just enough. I think whenever you get hung up, it'll actually sometimes help your bait back up out of the cover. Instead of, I think on the fluorocarbon sometimes, that fluorocarbon line has a tendency to sink, and a lot of times it won't allow that bait to back up off of what you're hung into. It'll actually stay more down toward the bottom.
Next generation of performance is here. Royal Purple's new high-performance street motor oil, HPS. Fortified with zinc phosphorus anti-wear protection, HPS exceeds the demands of high-performance and modified engines. Magnified, HPS improves metal surfaces for longer engine life. HPS's high film strength frees up more power, reduces heat and wear, plus provides greater protection. The next generation of performance is here with HPS from Royal Purple, the performance oil that outperforms.